Shifting focus now, this is a story you do not want to miss. A stealth US military aircraft makes an unannounced descent into the heart of Moscow. And within hours, the world discovers America's top intelligence director is on Russian soil, racing against a terrifying geopolitical countdown. Tonight, we are piecing together for you the secret dash that has placed global superpowers on high alert. Take a look.
An unmarked U.S. Air Force transport plane cuts through dense radar corridors to land in strict secrecy at Vnukovo Airport. Armored diplomatic convoys speed away into the Russian capital. Whispers erupt across global intelligence networks before the passenger's identity breaks. CIA Director John Ratcliffe has entered the Russian territory. His time on the ground is razor-thin. Within hours, the American spy chief departs just as abruptly as he arrived. Then comes the first official admission from Moscow. Russian authorities confirm Ratcliffe held high-level talks with his Russian foreign intelligence counterparts.
I can only tell you that there were contacts between the special services. I can tell you that there were no meetings with the president of Russia. That is all I can tell you on this subject. Naturally, President Putin is briefed on everything immediately.
Washington also played it down. President Donald Trump calls it a semi-routine visit, but experts quickly pointed out that the visit is anything but routine. This is the first time a CIA director visited the Russian capital in nearly 5 years. A day later, as global capitals demand answers about what grave message compelled the CIA chief to fly into Moscow in person, the Kremlin issues a curt statement. There was no audience with President Vladimir Putin. The atmosphere surrounding the trip is explosive. Only hours before the flight, Russia fired a nuclear-capable Iskander missile toward Ukraine and unveiled its Poseidon atomic super torpedo. On the other hand, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky claims classified intel detected preparations for a massive Russian mobilization of 500,000 troops. At the same time, intelligence warnings flashed across Western capitals about Russian sabotage plots threatening British and NATO infrastructure. Again, Washington is worried over purported Moscow's hidden hand behind Iranian attacks. There are rising concerns over Russian intelligence and satellite data sharing and target assistance to Iran. Several American military bases have been hit hard. The real purpose remains classified, but Ratcliffe's message could be about 3 things at once: Ukraine, NATO, and Iran. Whatever was discussed, Washington clearly believed Moscow was worth a secret flight. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Kerala, draped in the colors of celebration as the spirit of Onam sweeps across the state. From flower carpets, traditional feasts to cultural performances, the Harvest Festival brings alive the state's rich traditions and its famed festive spirit. Several parts across the state lit up. These are the visuals coming in from Thiruvananthapuram. The city is illuminated with vibrant lights as part of Kerala tourism's week-long Onam celebrations. Over 340 cultural programs are underway across 35 venues in the city, featuring nearly 3,000 artists. The week-long celebrations will conclude with a grand procession on the 30th of August. The historic sacred boat has set sail down the Pampa River This is, of course, a part of that tradition, carrying essential ingredients for the grand feast. The historical tradition accompanied by traditional snake boats and hundreds of chanting devotees. The boat carries provisions offered by the local families to prepare the festive feast for the presiding deity. The final and the most important day of the festival, that is. A large number of pilgrims, meanwhile, also flocked to the temple in Thiruvananthapuram. Take a look at these images coming in. Remember, Onam is a 10-day harvest festival celebrated primarily in Kerala and marks the annual homecoming of the legendary king Mahabali. The festival culminates with the 10th and most auspicious day. People celebrate the festival by wearing new clothes, creating floral decorations, and preparing the traditional vegetarian feast served on a banana leaf. The festival is also marked by cultural programs and celebrations that highlight the state's rich traditions and heritage. Let's now tell you about the heart-wrenching, man-made tragedy that unfolded in Pakistan. At least 14 newborn babies lost their lives in a devastating fire. This was at a hospital in Islamabad. Just for context here, the Pakistan Institute of Medical Sciences is the biggest state-run hospital in Pakistan's capital. The hospital, in fact, recently made news after authorities took the jailed former Prime Minister Imran Khan to that very hospital for a medical checkup last week. The fire broke out on the 3rd floor of the Mother and Child Health Ward at this premier public hospital. Investigators have said the fire was started by a faulty air conditioning unit, which exploded inside the nursery where newborn infants under intensive care were sleeping. The incident is among the deadliest hospital fires in recent years in the country. A country where government healthcare is subsidized, but facilities are under-resourced and overburdened, to say the least. In fact, watchdogs have frequently criticized state-run facilities as mismanaged. Some 19 people, including 7 children, were rescued. Witnesses described chaotic, harrowing scenes, including intense smoke, broken glass, a slow response from emergency services, and guards reportedly preventing them from leaving the building. Imagine that. Eyewitnesses, in fact, recounted the horror as coffins were being carried out into ambulances at the hospital mortuary.
At around 5:45 or 6 in the morning, we heard about 10 to 15 very loud explosions. We were sleeping outside in the hospital's porch. At first, I thought perhaps they were firing a ceremonial salute for Rabi al-Awwal, because they sometimes fire cannon salutes, so I assumed that was what the sound was. About 10 minutes later, my brother-in-law went upstairs and called us from there, saying that the ward upstairs was on fire. We immediately ran upstairs. We didn't even have shoes on. When we reached upstairs, we couldn't get as far as the ward because it was completely filled with smoke. We couldn't see anything ahead, and it was becoming difficult to breathe.
Authorities insist there was no delay in help arriving for the terrified parents and infants inside. But parents who lost their days-old babies in the fire have a different story to tell. They allege their desperate cries for help took several hours to arrive.
What did they go to get downstairs, leaving the children alone? The door of NICU was locked. I do not believe this. Give me my child back.
This is tragic, heart-wrenching, absolutely disturbing. In fact, the Prime Minister has now ordered a probe and said that those responsible should be identified and the strictest possible action should be taken. He has sacked the Health Secretary, the country's top civil servant for the department. An initial probe by the fire department found that fire and life safety arrangements were inadequate, compromised, and were not as per the standard requirements. The probe found that emergency exits and access routes were locked from outside. Security staff created hindrances to the initial response of the fire crew personnel. Inadequate crowd management was also observed at the incident site. In fact, the UN Children's Agency, UNICEF, said it was deeply saddened by the deaths and called for an urgent review and strengthening of fire prevention and safety standards across health facilities. Now, fires in large buildings are also frequent in Pakistan, by the way, often due to poor safety laws and building codes, as well as lax enforcement. In January itself, more than 65 people were killed in a shopping center fire in the port city of Karachi. At least 11 people were killed in another shopping mall fire. This was in Karachi in 2023. In 2012, at least 250 laborers lost their lives at a garment factory in Karachi.